I'm Ben Thompson, and the art director for Hearthstone.
I'm Peter Whalen. I'm one of the designers on the Hearthstone team.
Okay, let's kick off with some Kobolds and Catacombs stuff. So expansion's out sometime next month. Favorite cards revealed so far?
Ooh, favorite ones revealed so far.
You gotta remember what's been revealed so far.
I am probably Rin the First Disciple, to be honest. As a Warlock player, I love the vibe that sets for just that class, and it feels very Hearthstone at the same time. I don't know how many times I'm going to get that to go off, but Lord knows I'm going to try.
I really like Marin. I think Marin's my favorite card released so far. It captures the vibe of the set perfectly, that you get to go find a legendary treasure, you get to smash somebody's treasure chest, and then you're going to get awesome stuff. And the fact that we got to release it at least a month early is pretty awesome. It's really cool to get to play it in a different metagame and just have people experiment with it. People were playing Marin the Fox decks where you Potion of Madness the treasure chest and then Divine Spirit, Inner Fire and kill people. That's just awesome. It's really cool to see people getting to do that.
Was there any surprises there with when Marin came out early? Were you expecting him to see a lot of play, or?
Yeah, definitely. We saw that with Volcanosaur, with Ungoro, that if we put something out early, people will definitely experiment with it. They'll try it out. So I think that's great. Marin's a super fun card. There's a lot of great stories that came out of it. So yeah, I don't think we expected some of the routes that people were taking. Things like the Potion of Madness was surprising to me. I thought that was cool.
Is that something you think you'll continue doing in the future, like with new sets? Like you want to release cards early just because it kind of builds the hype a bit more?
I don't know. I think it's just a lot of fun, honestly. You get to try out a new card before the set comes out. It's actually really cool. Like this small trickle of content. A little bit like when we did Adventures and we would release Wings every week. And so you would have a different metagame every week as cards fell out. That was really fun. We had one of our championship or qualifying tournaments that happened during those weeks. There would be different regions had ones each week, and so during I think Karazhan launch, and so that was a lot of fun. It was really cool seeing that.
You mentioned the Warlock Legendary. Did that go through a lot of iteration to get it to a point where? Because I mean, you could have just printed a 10-mana 10/10 that destroyed the opponent's deck. Probably be a bit overpowered. So how much iteration did that go through? Particularly that design, because it just seemed so weird.
Very little, actually. It was less that we wanted to make a 10/10 that destroyed somebody's deck, and more we wanted to make this story that somewhere in the dungeon you would. And originally the story was this was a good guy, this was a guardian who was protecting these seals that you wanted to break because you're an evil warlock. But the story made more sense and was easier to tell if it was, this is an evil warlock. She's trying to, free her master. And so she's got this ritual that she's going to set you on when she dies. And so, yeah, the death rattle add the first seal, the seal summoning the demons and increasing power. Oh no, the seals originally did something different. They didn't summon increasing demons. One of them summoned a demon, one of them did 3 damage, one of them restored some health. But there was enough complexity in this card already that keeping the seals simple and consistent was great. And so I think the first seal was summon a 2/2 demons. So we're like, all right, well, let's build on that. 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6. And then Azari was something boring. He was a 10-mana 15/15, maybe no battle cry, maybe just like can't be targeted. Can't be targeted with spells or battle cry, something like that. And he was powerful. The ritual was great, but we wanted something really crazy, and so we were just brainstorming like, what is the craziest thing we can put on a demon at the end of that? And so yeah, we went with destroy your opponent's deck, and then that didn't change. He did lose 5/5. He used to be a 15/15. Now he's just a 10/10.
Oh, just keep the balance relative.
Yeah, we had to make sure it was fair, but yeah. So he's a 10/10 that destroys your opponent's deck now.
So you bring in these legendary weapons. Is it difficult to design those without just jumping to what the artifact weapons were in WoW, for example? Because they're similar in kind of the scope of them and the power that they're meant to bring to both games. But you don't want to kind of repeat yourself, right?
So some of them are the artifact weapons from Legion, right? Alaneth is the Arcane Mage artifact weapon from Legion. And so there's a couple of other ones that are in that space as well. But yeah, we wanted to go through all of WoW's history and see what are the coolest things that really fit our class fantasies. And these are a lot of weapons that were legendary or legendary tier in World of Warcraft. Things like Alaneth is a good example. Things that are the Dragon Soul that are these super powerful artifacts. And then the Rune Spear, which is Cairn's Halberd from World of Warcraft and Warcraft 3. And then you take a look at Twig of the World Tree, which was a blue weapon, like level 40 some odd blue in World of Warcraft. but it has this fantastic name and a really cool fantasy behind it that makes it really perfect for druids. So we went with that as well. And yeah, 8 of the 9 legendary weapons are in fact from World of Warcraft. And then the 9th is the weapon that's the weapon for the leader of the guild, of Master Oakheart, that is exploring the dungeons. And so that made sense in this context as well. We wanted one that was unique to Kobolds and Catacombs.
Well, you're looking at like level 40 World of Warcraft weapons. Phantom Blade, always one of my favorites.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, if you ever come back to this idea.
Warden Staff. I played a Feral Druid in
yeah.
Classic, and so Warden Staff was key because it had tons of armor on it.
You guys haven't done shields yet, but the Skull Shield, like it was like level 50-something, the epic one. Always one of my favorites.
Yeah, Julie's Dagger is one of my favorite. Because, you know, in beta when I played, Shaman's Rockbiter weapon scaled really well off weapon speed, and so Julie's Dagger, because I don't know, Sunken Temple was the biggest dungeon. Julie's Dagger was the best weapon in the game, so it has a really special place in my heart.
We'll have to. You got to do this again, basically, as well.
Yeah, sure. Like. I think we'll make some cool weapons in the future too.
On legendary weapons, actually, Ben, the art room you have on that it feels lower than it is on even any other card because it has to be a weapon. It needs to be a blade of some sort or like a punching dagger or something.
Sure.
Is that like a super challenge for you guys?
I'd say the biggest challenge of all of it is trying to get long rectilinear type weapons in a circular frame. So more often than not, it's I got a sword. Oh, I got to do a sword. Or a spear, God help me. So that tends to be the biggest challenge, is working with the artist to kind of work with the very limiting confines of a frame. Making them epic and making them awesome, I mean, we've got a lot of resources in World of Warcraft to see just how awesome weapons can look and can be. That team does an amazing job of making those things amazing and over the top and powerful all the time. So showing those kind of things as reference for new card types when they come out that are weapon-based but don't maybe have a home in World of Warcraft means we have a lot of resources to go to. And if they are in World of Warcraft, then at that point it's just showing them in all their glory and all their power.
There's also the dungeon run in Hearthstone, this expansion. We've seen a little bit of it, got to play a little bit of it at BlizzCon. How much more difficult than that does it get? A
lot more difficult. What you got at BlizzCon was really a good example of the first 3 types of encounters you can run into, or first range of 3. They go in groups, so there is a somewhat more, they pull from random within those 3, and then the next 3 will pull from another pool, and then finally into the last 4, it gets much harder in the last 4 fights, I'd say, 3 to 4. Some of it, again, I mentioned in the past, I think when we were talking about this to some other people, there are going to be some treasures that you're going to get that feel like, God, this is super overpowered. Some people were saying that at the BlizzCon run through, like, I mean, really, this weapon just made it's not even a fight anymore. It becomes a fight again real quick, and you're going to need that weapon, and even then it may not be enough. So,
how many of those runs have you done yourselves?
Oh my God.
A lot.
Beyond even playtesting, I would say this is one of the few times I've had to actually tell people to stop playing it long enough that we can actually get some work done and get some more things implemented before ship date. This has got, the replayability is real, and it extends even onto the team itself, spending as much time as they have on it.
You mentioned during the presentation that some of the legendary weapons were going to talk to the player.
Yeah.
Is that something that just sort of triggers when they're played, or is it over the course of gameplay? Is there anything else you can say about that?
Yeah, Alaneth is a good example. Alaneth has a play line when it comes out, as a death line. Maybe it has more than one death line, I don't remember anymore. And then when it triggers, it also says things too. And so it's not 100% of the time when it triggers. That was a little irritating, and it has multiple lines that it says when it fires. But yeah, Alaneth's not the only one.
Okay, is that just something that you thought added a bit of extra kind of character to?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Alaneth, for example, does that in World of Warcraft. It actually does talk to you and does have interactions with the player, and as a result, it was like, oh, that's kind of a fun thing. That's very Hearthstone. Maybe we just change some of the things it says.
Make it a little bit funnier, right?
Yeah.
So going wider, kind of on Hearthstone in general, there's a ranked rework on the way. You guys haven't announced anything about it. Is it still kind of everything's on the table and lots of work still to be done on it?
I would say both of those things are true. We continue to look at just what the right play for that is and just how it feels. Mostly comes down to how it feels when playing the game and what it takes to rank and all of the things around that. Just anything that's going to improve the play experience is such that players really feel like they're rewarded for the time they're investing. We spend a lot of time on talking about the investment of money and the investment of time and play, but time really is the thing here where we feel like if you're going to spend as much time as you do playing the game, you should get a return on it and a reward on it, and ranked play is one of those things.
Similarly, the arena kind of goes through all these phases. Sometimes people are really, really into it. Sometimes people aren't so much. You guys have gone into I would say, a habit of kind of changing it up by, you'll add like the dual class arena for a little bit, and then you kind of change some cards and change some stuff back. Where are you at with arena at the moment? Do you think it's something that you're going to change significantly again?
I think the dual class arena was a good example of stuff that we can try. That doing experiments in arena and just shaking things up for a little bit. But yeah, arena it's on the box. It's one of the most important pieces of Hearthstone. So we take it very seriously, and it's definitely something that we want to keep fun and fresh, and at the same time balanced and interesting. And there's a number of players who are arena players. They're Hearthstone players who just play arena. I think that's awesome. And so we want to support them and make sure that they're having a good game experience as well.
Similarly, you've had a year of this kind of system for Year of the Mammoth. Has it gone well? Are you excited about going into the next year as well? And do you think you're going to keep most of the stuff from this year? 3 expansions, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
3 expansions for sure is something that we're committed to. Now that we've incorporated the mission content into the expansions, that'll be probably one of the biggest changes for the course of the entire next year. I mean, we got 2 out of the 3 this year where they fell into that. Next year it'll be all 3 where they'll have mission content attached to it. So that'll be a big change. And then as far as just the cadence and where we think Year of the Mammoth is rounding up, we're pretty happy with everything. I mean, Peter made mention of the fact that Knights of the Frozen Throne was our best performing set ever. It was something that the players really, really found a lot of things to like about it. And Journey to Angora was no different. I mean, it had a lot of parts to it that really felt like an awesome, it created a lot of awesome meta, it created a lot of awesome decks to play with. There was new card types to be found in both sets. We had the quest cards and we had the hero cards. And now with Legendary Weapons, we've had 3 solid sets with 3 solid new card designs and types coming out, which is making for some interesting changes.
The dungeon run feels bigger than some of the other mission stuff you guys have done in the past, but certainly a lot more replayable and that sort of thing. Do you think you're going to be able to equal that with each set going forward, or do you think dungeon run, they're not all going to be like this size and this amount of new content?
I think for the same reason we changed it to dungeon run, not just because of vibe, but because of also trying new things and doing new things with the game. Dungeon Run is an example of that. If something else comes up that, oh, that would be really awesome, play to this vibe of this set, really play to the look and feel that we need for whatever the next sets may bring, then we may either go back to something like a Dungeon Run, we may go back to the more wing-based. Maybe there's something new on the horizon that we could try something as well, just like Dungeon Runs were new this time. It really comes down to what we want for that set and we feel is best for that vibe and just really player experience.
Finally, this is a question Kieran came up with actually, that was about the concept art trailers that you guys make, where you take the card art and then you animate it. How does that work? Because we couldn't work out whether it was extremely complicated or just quite complicated.
This is for the cinematics?
Yeah. So for usually you've got they're the ones with the songs over the top and that sort of thing, as opposed to the Hearth and Home stuff, which is a whole separate.
Each of the set cinematics are very important to the set, and the look and feel of what we kind of come to know is like 2.5D, so it's not quite 3D, but it's not 2D anymore. 2.5D is how it's referred to internally. Was from the very get-go a defining look and feel for the cinematics of Hearthstone. The songs being part of that, and the fact that they have this charming, whimsical feel. It takes the cinematic team. I mean, I would say the internal team of Hearthstone, the development team, doesn't work on those directly, though we do actually provide a lot of reference feedback, sometimes actual art from cards to go into it. Oftentimes they have a hold of our internal visual style guides, so that certainly you're seeing a lot of things show up. One night in Karazhan had the Medivhas show up, which was really just a bit of concept art for vibe, and ended up featuring into the cinematic, and they ended up showing up in their own tavern brawl, really. So there's some of that stuff takes on a life of its own, but ultimately the cinematics team at Blizzard is just always at the top of their game, and they love working on the Hearthstone stuff. Sweet.
So Hearthstone Kobolds and Catacombs sometime in December.
Yes, sir.
Excited?
Very much so.
Very excited.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.